Over the past month, I have been running a big poll of every LEGO Star Wars Clone Trooper minifigure ever made and getting you guys to vote on which one you think is the best. And today, I'm going to reveal the top 10 to essentially see what the community thinks are the top 10 best LEGO Star Wars Clone Troopers. The poll ended up getting a total of 1,820 votes, and before we get into it, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss opportunities in the future to be involved in videos like this. Anyways though, starting off with some honorable mentions, which are really just the 13th, 12th, and 11th spot. At the 13th spot, with a total of only 32 votes, is the Phase 1 Captain Rex from 2008. This figure is definitely a classic, and honestly, I'm pretty surprised that it did not get any more votes because Phase 1 Captain Rex is just such a popular character and figure amongst the community, but despite its popularity, I guess most people don't consider it to be a top 10 clone trooper. The next honorable mention, or the 12th spot, is one of my most favorite clone troopers of all time, being the 91st Recon Trooper from 2014, with a total of 44 votes. This figure only appeared in one set, being 75037 Battle on Saleucami, and I've always considered this figure to be super underrated because nobody talks about it, and I was honestly genuinely surprised and pleased to see that it at least made the top 13 or the honorable mentions. And then the last honorable mention, or the 11th spot, with a total of 47 votes, is the 2014 212th Airborne Trooper. This figure only appeared in one set, being 75036 Utapau Troopers, and this is an incredible figure, one of the best clone troopers LEGO has ever made, but in my opinion, and I guess a lot of other people's opinions, it's not the best 212th Airborne Trooper they've made specifically, as you'll see the 2020 version appear a little bit later on in this list. Anyways, now making our way into the official top 10, at the number 10 spot is one of the most influential clone troopers ever made, with a total of 48 votes, making up just 2.64% of the overall poll, is the 2014 Kashyyyk Trooper, or 41st Elite Corps Trooper, whatever you want to call it. It was featured in a few different sets in the mid-2010s, obviously the most notable one being 75035 Kashyyyk Troopers Battle Pack, and it was also featured in some other bigger sets like the 2016 Turbo Tank, but of course the most notable one is that Battle Pack, and that's why I say it's one of the most influential figures ever made, because this Battle Pack alone, and specifically this trooper, really started a whole new wave of LEGO Star Wars MOCs in the community back in 2014. Literally everyone and their mother was trying to build a Kashyyyk MOC, and it was just a really fun time. And on top of that, this is really just a timeless figure. I think it easily holds up today in 2024, and I'm glad to see that it made the 10th spot, even though I would personally put it a bit higher. Next up, at the number 9 spot, we have a fan favorite that I'm honestly kind of surprised isn't higher up on the list. I was expecting this to be maybe top 5 or top 3. With 51 votes, making up just 2.8% of the overall poll, is the Shadow ARF Trooper from 2011. This figure was a May 4th promo polybag back in 2011 and was only available for like 3 or 4 days, so since then it has become pretty rare and valuable. Its average price goes for around $300 to $400, but value aside, it's just a really unique and cool looking figure. It's the only like quote-unquote Shadow Clone Trooper that LEGO has made. There's been plenty of Shadow Stormtroopers, but this is the only Shadow Clone Trooper, so that makes it unique, and it just looks pretty intimidating. I think it has an awesome design, and like I said, I'm kind of surprised to see it only at the number 9 spot. I was really expecting this to be higher. Next up, at the number 8 spot, is a fan favorite with 60 votes, making up just 3.3% of the overall poll, is the 2013 Phase 2 Captain Rex. For the longest time, this was a very sought after and legendary minifigure that everyone wanted to get their hands on, because for 10 years until 2023, it was the only Phase 2 Captain Rex that LEGO had ever made. I have to say, for 2013, I think they did a pretty good job on it. I'd say the helmet print might be a bit outdated, but the rest of the figure looks great, especially for the time period, and to this day, it's one of the most legendary figures ever made, and honestly, like the Shadow ARF Trooper, I'm kinda surprised to see it only at the 8th spot. Next up, at the number 7th spot, is a figure that I personally don't think should have made the top 10, with a total of 81 votes, making up just 4.45% of the overall poll, is ARC Trooper 5s from this year 2024. And honestly, I don't want to be that guy, but I think I have to be that guy. I'm pretty sure this is just a recency bias, and you know, a lot of you might get annoyed at me saying this, but I don't like this figure because of the helmet holes, and because of the printed waist cape, and of course because of the pauldron. Say what you want about printed waist capes or helmet holes or whatever, you can like them, you can not like them. I personally don't like them because they just blatantly make the clone troopers look worse than the ones that we used to have in the mid-2010s, and I'm a person who grew up with those clone troopers. I think they look great, and in my eyes, LEGO has kind of downgraded to what we have today. It doesn't look bad, I just personally don't think it's comparable to the clone troopers that we used to get. Although, if there's one nice thing I have to say about this figure, it's that I think he has really great torso and arm printing, and I really appreciate the arm printing, although still, I don't think it should be in the top 10. Anyways, making our way to the number 6 spot, we have a clone trooper that definitely deserves to be in the top 10, with a total of 84 votes, making up just 4.62% of the overall poll, is the 2020 212th Airborne Trooper. And yeah, I agree, this is a phenomenal figure, definitely deserves deserving of the top 10. I mentioned earlier that this figure would make an appearance later on in the list, and here it is. It's pretty similar to the 2014 one that I talked about earlier, although it's got a few more details throughout its torso and leg prints, which I just think makes it look a tad bit better. It's also got 2 white arms instead of 1 orange arm and 1 white arm, and I also think it has a bit of a better waist cape too. This is overall just a great figure, very similar to the 2014 variant, but ever so slightly better. Now making our way into the top 5, at the number 5 spot is another fan favorite, with 94 votes, making up just 5.16% of the overall poll, is Phase 1 Commander Wolf from 2011. I think everyone was expecting this figure to be in the top 5, it definitely deserves it. In my opinion, it's one of the most impressive clone troopers for its time period ever made. Compared to most of the Clone Wars Phase 1 clone troopers released from like 2008 to 2012, this one is easily the best. And not only is it the best, I'd say it's way above the rest. It's pretty impressive how good of a job they did on it for 2011. So yes, I completely agree, this deserves the number 5 spot. Next up at the number 4 spot, with just 2 more votes, totaling 96, making up just 5.27% of the overall poll, is Phase 2 Commander Cody from 2022. Yes, earlier I was saying that modern clone troopers are kind of a downgrade from what we used to have, although this figure right here is definitely an exception. It's easily the best clone trooper they've released in the past 5 years, and honestly when I made this poll, I was expecting it to be maybe number 2 or 3, but I'm still glad to see it in the top 5. Up next at the number 3 spot, with just 1 more vote than Commander Cody, totaling 97 votes, making up just 5.33% of the overall poll, is my personal favorite clone trooper ever made, being Phase 2 Commander Gree from 2014. And if I made this list, I would put it at number 1. If you watch my ranking every clone trooper video, I actually put it at number 2, but since then I've changed my mind. In my opinion, this is the best clone trooper LEGO has made. Mainly for me at least, it's just his colorway. That metallic gray helmet goes so well with the dark green on his arms and his torso. It just looks really good. This is one of my favorite figures. I'm super happy to have it in my collection, and while I personally think it should be at number 1, I am very happy to see it at number 3. Anyways, now making our way into the final 2 spots, at the number 2 spot with a total of 111 votes, making up just 6.1% of the overall poll, is Phase 2 Captain Rex from 2023. Over the past year, this has probably been one of the most talked about LEGO minifigures, and I was 100% expecting it to make the top 10, but I was a little bit surprised to see it make it all the way to the number 2 spot. I do personally think it looks better than the original 2013 variant, although I wouldn't have put it this much higher. I probably would have just put it 1 spot after the 2013 variant because I think they're so similar and how good they are. The main thing for me that makes this one better is just his helmet print. I think the helmet print on this is phenomenal. He also has very nice arm printing, although like I pointed out with Fives, he's got a printed waist cape as well as helmet holes, which I personally just don't appreciate. So because of the helmet print alone, I think it's good enough to be 1 spot higher than the 2013 model, although I definitely would not have put it at the number 2 spot. Anyways though, moving on to the number 1 spot, I'm pretty sure everyone knew what figure was going to take this place, winning by an absolute landslide with a total of 340 votes, making up 18.68% of the overall poll, is of course the Phase 2 ARC Trooper from 2012. And if you've noticed throughout this list, every clone trooper has been very close, like we had a few within 80 votes, and then a few within 90 votes, and then just one that crested over 100 votes, and then here we have this one winning by a landslide with 340. And I have to say, I was expecting this figure to take the number 1 spot, but not by this much. I honestly thought it was going to be pretty close with maybe Captain Rex and Commander Cody, but no, it won by a landslide, and I am completely fine with this. Despite me thinking that Commander Gree is the best, this figure is also definitely debatable for the number 1 spot. It's got a unique ARC Trooper helmet mold that LEGO has only made this one time, as well as a phenomenal shoulder pauldron and a phenomenal waist cape. This is overall just nearly a perfect figure, and the reason I say nearly is because it actually has the problem that some other figures have been having recently, where on its legs, the color of the plastic bleeds through the print and makes what's supposed to be white look a little bit pinkish. It's not super noticeable on this figure. It's definitely not as noticeable as it is on Commander Fox, but it is there, and that's why I'd argue that Commander Gree is a bit better. But other than that very slight issue, this is a perfect figure, and it's definitely deserving of the number 1 spot, even though I would personally put Commander Gree here. Anyways guys, that's gonna do it for this video. Let me know what you think about this list down in the comments below if you agree or disagree with it. If you're new, please consider subscribing, and if you want to check out more of my videos, you can see on the screen right now.